What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Awaken Catholic Show. I am your host, Nick Della Torre, and I am so excited about our conversation today. We have Colin Stroud and Annie Schlueter. Anne-Marie and I go way back. Colin and I go back in ways we didn't even know. And man, they are doing some great stuff in their lives, the work that they're doing for the Lord. They got some really exciting things coming up in their personal lives we're going to get into. We're going to be talking about why do Catholics go to Latin Mass sometimes, and who's right, the people that go to Latin Mass or the people that don't go to Latin Mass, and all that Catholic weird stuff. All of that stuff is coming up right after this. I could not be more excited to be here with you right now. I mean, obviously it's virtual. I'm not actually with you, but like I'm in front of your eyes, I'm in your ears, and my heart is with you outside of time and space. I just want you to know before we get into this that if you enjoy the content being developed here at Awaken Catholic for you could be a part of what makes this all possible by joining the Awaken Nation. The Awaken Nation is a group of people that make all of the work we do here at Awaken Catholic possible. It's all thanks to people like yourselves. And if you are interested in joining the Awaken Nation by making a monthly contribution, whether it's the size of a small cup of coffee per week or, bigger cup of coffee, maybe a jumbo-sized cup of coffee, whatever cups of coffee you're into, equivocate that to whatever amount you want to join the Awaken Nation. Man, this got out of hand. Anyways, visit awakencatholic.org/donate to join the Awaken Nation. And the other cool thing is you get exclusive content when you join the Awaken Nation between presentations and insider looks at the shows being developed, and then even bonus content that a lot of the show hosts make just for members of the Awaken Nation. Make sure to check that out. And if you didn't know, we have an app, and the app is awesome. And members of the Awaken Nation have a really special little part of the app that is, where they find their stuff. But the app is free, and other than the Awaken Nation, all of the stuff in the app is free. It's a social media alternative. It's a hub for your favorite Catholic content. I mean, what more could you ask for? Well, I'll tell you what more as I hit my microphone stand. There is music on the horizon, original Catholic music that you will find in the music part of the app. There's a prayer library. You can get some awesome Catholic swag in the shop. The fun never ends, folks. Check out theawakenapp.io for, if you're tired of the toxic social media culture, if you're tired of Catholic media that is lame, this is the app for you, theawakenapp.io. Okay, and finally, this episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Select International Tours. Let's roll the thing.
Have you ever dreamed of visiting Paris in the fall? Seeing the beautiful Eiffel Tower lit up by a sunset, visiting and venerating holy locations of the Sister Saints of France in Lisieux, Paris, Lourdes, and more. This fall 2021, join Select International Tours with Claire Swinarski and Catherine Whitaker, along with a host of other powerful Catholic women, on a once-in-a-lifetime Seine River cruise pilgrimage in France. Join our friends at Select International Tours and Cruises with over 34 years of experience. They are the perfect company to help you experience pilgrimage. To learn more, visit selectinternationaltours.com/awaken. Bon voyage!
We love Select International Tours, our sponsors for this episode and so many others. Also, if you didn't know, we are going to the Holy Lands this year. That's right. There's an Awakened Catholic pilgrimage to the Holy Lands. Literally a dream come true for me. It could be a dream come true for you too. If you're into that. So check out, I think it's holylands.awakencatholic.org for more information on that. Okay, without further ado, I've dragged out, I've done things to elongate and prolong the highly anticipated guest feature of Colin Stroud and Annie Schlueter. I'm sorry, it's not Annie Marie, it's Anne Marie or it's Annie, right?
And yeah, you're good. My grandpa calls me Annie Marie, so you can get on that level.
Did you just say am I like your grandfather now?
I mean, honestly, my grandpa's the coolest person I know, so if you're like my grandpa, it's pretty good sign.
Oh my gosh. Guys, you might see for the first time Nick Della Torre on the Awaken Catholic Shed a Tear. It might happen. Okay, so Annie, I am so excited to have you here. You have just become this awesome woman doing amazing things for the Lord. And I have known you since you were just a wee, let me get in the camera here. You were just a wee little thing, which right now I'm sitting, so this doesn't look that wee. So maybe like down here. Anyways, you were so young, you and your siblings, and I just instantly fell in love with your family. Your family is such a beautiful Catholic family. And it's not just because you guys have like 20 kids. It's because you guys just live the gospel and you live mission. And I've always admired that about the way that you were brought up, like the way that your parents involve you in the work of bringing the gospel to people, of bringing the Lord to people, and that you as kids were like there for it. I mean, you were there praying, you were there worshiping, you were there helping out in whatever way you could help. And I think that's so cool. And I find myself, my wife and I find ourselves wanting, like, it'll occur to us like, oh, how would the Schlueters do this? And so and you see the fruits in it. Joseph, John Paul, like they've turned out to be amazing young men, and they're doing crazy cool stuff. And you're down there in Florida. And the only reason I didn't, mention Catherine or Grace, like I think they're still in high school. Is that?
Still in high school, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so you guys are just killing it. Talk to us about like what you've been up to.
Wow, praise God. Thank you. I'm so moved by all of that. And actually, Nick, it's so funny because as I was praying about this show today and thinking about it, you were the first person to ask me to speak at something and share my testimony when I was like, 15, I think. It was somebody didn't show up who was supposed to show up or something, and I don't even know how it happened, but all of a sudden I just remember being at St. John of Arc holding a microphone and looking out into a sea of the great old people who are the reason that the Catholic Church still stands.
That's so accurate.
It's so funny too, because like when I talk about my testimony or whatever, really in that time of my life, I was undergoing this conversion that obviously is still going on today, but I'm like, what the heck was I doing with a microphone? Like, somebody take that away. But anyway, so that's a beautiful memory that I have. But down here in Florida, gosh, so yeah, the Lord has me in a very interesting season right now because it's definitely, I'm not doing as much, and which is odd because like you mentioned, I grew up in a ministry family, and my friends used to call me like the Catholic version of the pastor's kid kind of vibes, which is also funny because my dad gets called Pastor Greg on a regular basis, and it doesn't really work, but it also kind of works. So you're like the pastor of Mass Impact. Okay, Dad, cool. Anyway, but, so I went from doing lots of ministry stuff with my family to coming down here to Ave Maria University, where I love the school. Like any small kind of startup institution, it's not that old, and there were gaps in terms of just, people, there was a lot more work to be done, and the laborers were few. And so I just was really blessed to be able to plug in right away and start leading things. And in my time at Ave, I started 2 different worship nights that ran weekly. One was for just women. I started a household, led a bunch of different retreats, and this really had the Lord's heart for the campus, which it's beautiful and humbling looking back on my college time. I only just graduated in May. But seeing just how much in my own weakness and how much in my own ongoing conversion and growth, the Lord was just using my yes. And now it's beautiful because as we are preparing for marriage in May, I definitely the Lord has like slowed my heart in this postgraduate stage of just really receiving, and not necessarily, I'm not in a spot that I'm leading a lot and organizing a lot and doing a lot, which has been a beautiful kind of healing of my identity, and just being able to receive his love and be poured into in this season. And so my kind of ministry, if you will, is a lot more online and writing and that sort of thing, as we're just really praying into what it's going to be to live out marriage and family life.
Yeah, but I would caution you to not downplay the impact that can have. What you're doing now, it seems maybe like it's just you in your room and you're typing and whatever, but I've seen the traction that your content gets, and the authenticity and the beautiful authentic expression of wanting to submit everything you are to the Lord, and the example that you're setting for the people in kind of living that internal life externally. And I think that there's such a need for people to see that and see how beautiful that can be. I remember when you were in college and some of the worship events that you were mentioning, you would make posts from those, and just such beautiful reflections on kind of your experiences in those moments and what was the Lord telling you in that time. And people need to see that. Like, we need to normalize those types of communication, those types of dialogue about what our experiences are, because otherwise, like, we have this secularized culture where it's like weird if you talk about God too much or something, you know. Like, I'll give a talk in front of 3,000 people. I'll tell well, before COVID, now it's 1,500, you cut it in half every other, row. Anyways, but I stand up in front of 3,000 people and I'll tell them, okay, before I get this talk going, I want everyone to stand up and tell the person next to you one moment in your life where you encountered God, and like there was no question in your mind that God was there. And then they'll do it, and I'll give them like about 2 minutes to do that, and then I'll ask them to sit down and I'll say, all right, raise your hand if that felt really awkward. And it's incredible how I just watched an ocean of 3,000 hands go up because everyone felt awkward about that. And that's a part of the issue, is we haven't normalized expressing those experiences. We haven't normalized talking about God like if he's actually a part of our lives. It's almost like this kind of private, like, it's overly privatized in the sense that, like, it's kind of your own imaginary friend and you don't talk about it. It's like, no, this is a real thing and it's happening to me. It can happen to you if you just, drop the bull crap. Like, I think that's a beautiful thing. And all of that to say, overly verbosely, don't downplay what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I received that.
Brilliant. All right. And Colin, so we just discovered that there's kind of a first degree of separation, second degree of separation. What would that be? That we, basically your dad connects us in a sense. So I used to work at the Diocese of Toledo, and there were a couple events that I had to work with your dad on where we invited him to come speak. And I noticed your last name as we were getting started here, and I've known your last name, but it never dawned on me. I was like, hold on a second. There's no way that he's related to the Dr. Stroud, Christopher Stroud. And you're like, oh yeah, that's the man. That's my dad. So yeah, what is it like growing up with like a celebrity Catholic doctor?
Well, he'd always tell us, if you kids go to the mall, not that we would go to the mall. We weren't even allowed to go to the mall, but if you kids are out doing something dumb, and you ever see someone, just know that like they're going to let me know because they're probably my patient. And that was his threat every time. And I never thought of him as a celebrity till let's see. So they made a few videos about him. And I thought, oh, that's my dad. Maybe he is one. And then everywhere we go, people would know him. And so I'd say he's a minor celebrity. He's a humble man.
He is.
And he's not looking after the celebrity thing, but he's doing great stuff. And I'm really proud. And I think my dad is kind of the face of everything, but my mom actually does sometimes more than him. She's a nurse midwife and works with him. And she started their Holy Family Birth Center. And she basically spearheaded that whole project because he was doing other stuff. And so, yeah, my mom's kind of the hidden hero behind their mission with all their women's health stuff. So, yeah,
that is so cool.
I'm really proud of them.
Yeah. So for any of our listeners or viewers that don't know, Dr. Christopher Stroud has become notorious for really, I think a real anointing from the Lord to bring healing to people that struggle with fertility. So many married couples will travel distances to get to Dr. Christopher Stroud. Is that in Indiana? Is that where that is? Yeah. And he even at one point, because so many people were being directed to him from, me and a few other people at the diocese, he ended up like opening a temporary like a once a month he'll come and he'll do a pop-up clinic here in Bowling Green, Ohio. The guy's just amazing. And what you said about his humility, I think is so important because he is famous in the way that he is because of his goodness, because he just serves and he loves on people. And I feel like that's the most Christ-like way to do it. Like, there are so many Catholic celebrities that you know about because they sell 1 million books and they are making a huge difference in people's lives. Those books are serving a huge role that is necessary. but these are also people that have marketing campaigns. These are people that have whatever, and they're trying to build up a brand. And there's a place for that because it ultimately serves a higher good. But like your dad is just on the ground floor saying to married couples, saying to women, like, how can I help you figure out what no one else has been able to figure out yet? Like, how can we figure out what we can do in partnership with God to hone in on what the very, unique issue is that no one else has uncovered, and let's attack that head on and find some healing. And I know that his success rate is like stupid compared to anyone else trying to do what he's doing, at least in this region. And by stupid, I mean amazing. Like he's just killing it. And it makes me think, like, dude, it's so Christ-like. Like Jesus Christ, he became famous because he walked around serving people and helping them find healing. And I just find that to be such a beautiful thing about your dad. I've never had an interaction with your dad that I wasn't like, wow. Like that's an awesome dude. Now let's talk about you, Colin. Not to put you in his shadow. That wasn't the intention. No. So what are you doing? So you're working with, before we started this episode, you guys shared with me that you're co-workers on a team of 3.
No.
Because I was just like, man,
I'm the superior.
Whoever that third person situation is, that is so awkward. That third wheel in that office setting, like.
He's actually not, well, I'll let you talk. Never mind.
I'm a student at Ave Maria University. I'm a junior there studying accounting, and I do work for the marketing department, but just a little bit. I just do, I'm just an hourly.
He's my employee.
And well, the funny thing is that it was kind of presented when I was getting hired, like Annie was going to be my boss. And so we got to have a lot of fun about that. And I was like, oh, Annie, Annie's in charge of me. But really, Annie isn't my boss by any means of it at all. She's just
any means at all.
But,
oh boy,
we're in the same vineyard, but just separate vines,
Yeah. Have there ever been like weird dynamics, like Annie, put you on the spot here? Like, have you ever been like, man, I gotta correct.
You know what?
What do I do?
So his main thing that he takes care of is our daily internal communication with the students. So he's in charge of putting that together and sending it out and all this stuff. But there's some weird technological Wi-Fi stuff that makes it so that he has to be on campus to send it out. And this morning, he had a meeting with my boss / I guess our boss off campus. And so I picked up his computer and I was going to send it out. And he forgot to text me what the password was.
Oh, no.
And I was freaking out, and it has to go out at whatever time. And so I knew part of it, but I ended up locking myself out of the account. So then I had to pull the staff card and call IT and be like, I need you to unlock this student's account for me.
Oh my goodness.
So that was a little bit awkward, but
that's so funny.
I'm in this important meeting, and I just get 9 phone calls from Annie. So either she is on fire, or it's wrong.
Or you're about to be.
Or yeah, that's what it said. Other than that, it's good. Yeah,
wow.
It mostly goes well. So
it's actually really nice because we'll probably never have this experience again where Colin completely understands my work culture and work environment for better or for worse. And so being able to share that and just have that kind of communication is really cool.
It's nice.
That is awesome. And so you're still studying. So what do you want to do once you graduate, Colin?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I'm studying accounting because I thought, I wanted to study business, and it seemed like a better way to specialize in that. And I'm not set on a particular career. I would like to be, but the thing is that I think where I am right now, it's just I found a lot of peace in just kind of knowing, okay, there is not this one job. I will not give my whole life just because I want to be a lawyer so badly. I know people like that, and I'm kind of jealous of them, but I also am not at all, because some of these people with like their 25-year plan of exactly what they're going to do starting at age 13. I never really understood that, and I think we've all met people like that, and it's hard. So anyway, I'm open to a lot of different things. I'm interested in marketing and communication stuff, and accounting and finance, so it's such a gift too, to have good connections around in Indiana. My parents and Annie's parents in Toledo. There's just good people out there good business owners that want to help Annie and I both get jobs, whatever that is, and whenever it is that we relocate, because we do, like we were saying before, we do really want to move back to the Midwest, because while Florida is beautiful and it's 75 here and sunny, Midwest is home for us, and we love it there. Annie likes the seasons for some reason. I don't like the seasons, but I like the people. So that's the goal, is to move back there, and so we'll see what happens. So stay tuned for that.
And not to interject, but to toot Colin's horn a little bit, he is so talented and passionate also about bringing people together in community and event planning and just all things personal, interpersonal related. I remember the first conversation I had with him, he was telling me about a homily that his pastor gave at one point about, was it Multiply Love?
Oh, yeah.
Was that what it was? I don't know what made me think of this right now, but of like how when we receive an act of love from somebody, it multiplies itself and you give it to somebody else. And it's just this really simple idea of it keeps going. But that, I think that kind of explains really well what he's passionate about, and even just like your work ethic and stuff.
That's really cool. Fun. Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, I'm a little biased, but I hope you're able to find a way to use those gifts to bless the church specifically. I don't know if you're thinking about the religious sector or the secular sector, but yeah, those are really powerful tools to be passionate about, and yeah, so that's awesome, man. I do have a bone to pick with both of you.
Good. Let's take it.
Speaking of having awesome things to offer the church and the people and not doing it, you guys last year came out with this beautiful, I mean, it was, I think it might have had international acclaim, podcast, The Colin and Annie Show. And let me just, in case you'd forgotten, let me let you know when the last episode was. It was April 9th of 2020. And in the episode, it's, immediately kind of reacting to the initial pandemic stuff. And you mentioned, oh my gosh, we're in the apocalypse. There's no toilet paper. There's no paper towels. And we're doing this over Zoom, but don't worry. Hopefully after this, we'll do it in person again with good equipment and stuff. And I was like, so when? Because no, you guys, your podcast is so fun. I discovered your podcast when I was on a road trip with Alina. We were coming back from a conference we did in Raleigh, so we had this long drive, and it gave us plenty of time to catch up on this newly found passion of ours, the Colin and Annie Show. And you guys had an episode. Let me see if I can find what it was called here. You had an episode about... I'm just remembering some of the stuff in it. It was so funny. Literally, the title of the episode is Old People with an exclamation mark. And your commentary on the elderly was so, it was like all at once, very respectful and reverent, but still found a way to have so much fun with it. And I think if I were an old guy, I would have enjoyed it. But man, I was dying listening to that. And I just think in the way that you guys kind of touch on current events, like in that most recent episode on April 9th of 2020, just so we're remembering how long ago it was, you guys you do that segment where you're talking about like, what do you love right now? And, and Colin, you even got into a little bit of the stuff that was happening with the initial stimulus package to help with the COVID relief and stuff. And like, you touched on it was ultimately like informative, but it was also just fun. And I think the biggest thing it had going for it is something that is entirely unrepeatable. And that's just how like disgustingly adorable the two of you are together. So, you're really doing a disservice to the people, and the people want it. The people want it. On behalf of the people, they want it. So let's go.
You can answer that.
If you say so. Let's see. Well, you said it was worldwide famous. I'm not sure if we ever had as many listens as number of countries in the world. So we'll have to.
Well, we definitely had some international listens.
We did. Yeah. It's funny you get that random one from Ukraine.
Indonesia.
Yeah. I will tell you, in my world, it was famous.
We appreciate it. It was very fun doing it. We had so much fun doing it, and we just kind of come up with these ridiculous episode things. I think I came up with I'm pretty sure I came up with the old people thing.
I think you did.
I think it was based off just some rant I was already thinking about. So we were long distance over the summer. Annie was working here in Florida and I was in Indiana, so it made it difficult. So we thought, okay, we're definitely not going to do it over the summer. And then, I'm here. I'm beating my chest now in repentance for just being lazy and I haven't started it. However, it is Annie's dream that we'll start it again, maybe under a new name, maybe just the Annie Show.
I paid Nick to say this because
I'm sure you did.
I'm on team Colin and Annie Show.
Well, listen, if you guys do move back to the Midwest, you can host a show here on Awaken Catholic. I've said it. I've said it publicly. So will it be. No, you guys are really, really great. And, there is a back catalog of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 episodes that you can binge right now, viewer or listener. At least wait till the end of this episode. But we'll put a link to to the Spotify for that, or I don't know if there's another homepage we can link to in the show notes. But yeah, we'll get that figured out and we'll do that for you. It is worth checking out for sure. Okay. Colin and Annie, it's time for the Kerygma speed round. And I'm eventually going to have like a little jingle that happens there, but not yet. So, so question number 1 in the Kerygma speed round, and I'm going to ask this of each of you. Colin, you first.
Okay.
Who is Jesus to you?
Who is Jesus to me? Jesus is Lord, Jesus of Nazareth. I was just thinking of the cover of the book by Benedict XVI, Jesus of Nazareth. He's just Lord, and he's God, and he's the second person of the Trinity, and he saved me from a lot of bad stuff, and he's just the object of our worship. So yeah, I would say just off the top of my head, that's who it is.
That's beautiful. Annie?
The word that came to my mind was pursuer, and I just see the crucifix of Jesus, just everything that we know about Jesus, every line in scripture, even as he's spoken and appeared to saints through the years. It's just him radically pursuing us with the Father's heart, and that's how I've experienced him in my life. Is just it's a cliche now, but it wasn't when it came out. Like the song Reckless Love, it's just no shadow you won't light up, no mountain you won't climb up coming after me. And in truth, I think that the enemy uses cliche and sometimes we'll just call truth a cliche and it loses its power in our lives, but objectively it can't lose its power. And we see Jesus in the Eucharist, the Mass is the ultimate pursuit of me and of my soul. And yeah, that's who Jesus is to me.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Okay. Question number 2, elevator pitch. You're standing on an elevator and you're stuck with someone, and for whatever reason, it comes up that you're a Christian. What's your elevator pitch for a life with Jesus?
Me first?
Yes, you
Colin.
first.
Elevator pitch. Well, it depends how big the elevator is.
Yeah, you get to choose how many floors. Yeah.
30 floors. I think just go for meaning of life. So, there has to be meaning of life. There has to be a purpose for all this. And if it's not the Christian life, if it's not Jesus, if it's not God, then what are we really even doing here? And what is the answer to all these terrible questions that you think of when you're laying up at night, which I think we all do. And it's just been so clearly revealed in just a number of different ways that this is the only way. And so this is the purpose of life right here, is Christian life. So yeah, that's it. And then I'm sure there's a lot of questions that follow that from them, but that's I'd say my elevator pitch.
I love it. That's great.
It's just a meeting.
You'll just start screaming in tongues.
No, that's
How about you, Annie?
I would say similarly, just that there has to be a point, just appealing to the just the ache of the soul of when you binge Netflix too much, or you eat too much food, or something more serious like sexual sin or addiction or whatever else, don't you feel the ache? There's this emptiness, and there's got to be more. There's got to be more than whatever our immediate experience is, and whatever is driving us to fill these human appetites. And that more is Jesus Christ. And because of the liberation and the freedom that is offered to us through the Catholic faith, we don't have to be slaves to the human appetites. We don't have to be slaves to whatever's going on in the news. That doesn't have to affect my attitude. That doesn't have to affect the way that I'm planning to live out my next however many years that the Lord gives me. Because Jesus says to us that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And so I'm not living as a slave. I'm living as a daughter, and I'm living in the adoption of God the Father. And I love how the Christian faith is the only faith where our relationship to God is that intimate and that beautiful and that free, where I'm not a slave. I'm not a second cousin. Like, I'm an adopted daughter of the King. And something I learned recently that's interesting that I can throw into this elevator pitch quickly before we get to floor 12 is that so we talk about adoption a lot in the Christian church, Catholic Church, and that actually used to bug me a lot, because it's like, well, why can't I just be a full-on daughter of the King? Like, why do we always have to say we're adopted through the blood of the Lamb and all this stuff? And in Roman rule, in this thing that I read that I don't remember what it was, so I can't reference it, adoption was much more serious, because Romans did not value life. They didn't uphold the dignity of life. And so if you had a son or a daughter, biologically, they would say that the gods or whoever gave it to you, and so it was your right to throw it away. Versus if you adopted a child, that was your choice, and so you were bound by that choice. So
that's
my
crazy.
pitch for Christian living is that the King of the universe chose me, and so I'm going to choose him. Bada bing, bada boom.
That's intense, and I love it. That's awesome. I've never heard that response. That's pretty interesting. Man, I want to look more into that, because that's pretty wild about was it the Roman Empire? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, question number 3 in the Kerygma speed round. Third and final question. Elevator pitch. Maybe it's a whole nother building or a continuation. Specifically, a life as a Catholic. Colin, you first.
If you accept the first elevator pitch of you should be a Christian, then you have to ask yourself how you're going to practice and worship. And Jesus established the Catholic Church as the one holy apostolic church. It's the only one, and everything else falls a little bit short because it does not bring itself directly back to Jesus. And I guess the Greek Orthodox people can fight there, and I don't know the answer to that one because I know there's a whole thing. But the thing is that is just that direct succession, and nothing else offers that direct line of contact right back to the meaning of life, what we talked about before, to Christ. And so that's the pitch to be Catholic is to be most united to God through success, to the apostolic succession.
That's great. That's beautiful. Absolutely. Annie?
So I would say similarly, if you are to accept elevator pitch number 1 and presupposing that you believe in the objective truth of Jesus Christ, I think it was G.K. Chesterton who said, you cannot break the law, you can only break yourself against the law. So there's got to be something, Jesus has to be more than an emotion. And if he's a good God, if God the Father is a good Father, then he will have left us with a way to live our life and with an authority that can direct us and that can guide us. And it goes all the way back to St. Peter. We have this beautiful, like you're saying, line of succession, and just the depth and the richness. And I probably wouldn't talk as much as I would just start recommending books or something, because anybody else can say it better than I could, and just showing the reality of all of the tradition and beauty that we have, that it's again liberating, that we free ourselves by being formed by.
Super moving. I love that. All right. Before we get any further, I should mention that today's episode is sponsored by Select International Tours. Let's roll the thing. You. Yeah, you. You know you've always wanted to go to Paris. Well, now's your chance. If you go with Select International Tours, the sponsor of today's Awaken Catholic Show episode, you can join Claire Swinarski from the Catholic Feminist podcast, as well as author and speaker Catherine Whitaker, along with a host of other powerful Catholic women, on a once-in-a-lifetime Seine River cruise pilgrimage in France. Visit and venerate the sister saints of France in Lisieux, Paris, Lourdes, and more. Sacre bleu! Learn more by visiting selectinternationaltours.com/awaken. In case you're wondering, no, I'm not ashamed of my French accent. I'm darn tootin' proud of it. Anyways, before we continue, Colin, you there? Annie, you there? You guys there? I don't know if you guys heard this. There was a recent move to kind of lock down Florida and kind of keep people restricted and keep people out, keep people in, somewhere in between, maybe both. It's a big party. Well, kind of alongside what that legislation would have been, they were going to keep Floridians from accessing the Catholic Weird Stuff segment. So here, though, at Awaken Catholic, we say no. We're not gonna play that game. So here we go with Catholic Weird Stuff.
Catholic Weird Stuff. Why do they do the things that they do? Let's learn some Catholic Weird Stuff. It's a weird.
On today's Awaken Catholic Weird Stuff segment, we're going to be talking about what are these Catholics doing that go to a mass that is in a dead language of Latin. And are they right? And if you are one of those people that goes to a Latin mass, and you're wondering to yourself, why are all these people not going to a Latin mass? Why are they going to mass in a language they can actually understand? Are they right, or am I right? And are the other people wrong? And should we go to war over this? No. The answer is no, you should not go to war over this. But we're going to get into this right now with Colin and Annie. Colin and Annie, you said in our pre-show work that you are currently you've been attending a Latin mass and that you're kind of digging it. You're picking up what they're putting down, drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, we decided that anybody who doesn't go to the Latin mass is going to hell.
Oh my gosh!
No, totally joking. We still go to both. We go to the Novus Ordo and the Latin mass, but most Sundays we've been going to the Latin mass.
Yeah, and can you explain Novus Ordo? What is the fundamental difference between the two?
Yeah, so I think my sister, who's younger than me, learned that word Novus Ordo, and she just started throwing it around because she thought it was cool. She knew a word like that. I was like, no, it's not a big deal. So there's just
she'd
just
literally be like, "Oh, Novus Ordo!"
It's totally out of context. It's like you learned one cool word, relax. But so no, basically, so Pope Paul VI, after the Vatican. Towards the end of the Second Vatican Council, after the Vatican Council, instituted this new mass. So it's called the Novus Ordo, new order, new mass, I think, new liturgy. I'm not exactly sure how it exactly translates. So there was the mass of the Council of Trent, I think is what it was. And that was in the 1500s. So it was basically the same up until the Second Vatican Council. After that, I think it was in the late 1960, maybe it was 1972 or something. The new mass came in, so that's the Novus Ordo. So that's in English or the vernacular, so whatever language is in. And it's a little bit different. Some stuff was added, some stuff was taken out. And basically, so most people's Annie and I, the only thing we really knew was that mass, and we didn't really even know. We maybe heard rumors there was these weirdos doing this older mass, but we hadn't really. It wasn't really a part, and I think it still really isn't a part of normal Catholic culture because it was relatively not part of anything. Our culture, especially in America, and then it's on its way back now. So we actually go to a fraternity Fraternal Society of St. Peter, the FSSP. They have apostolates in almost every major city in America, and they have 3 different parishes. They work here in Naples, Fort Myers area, and so they are a priestly order whose charism really is just teaching about the Latin Mass and doing it. Yeah, so they're really great and super awesome, and we really enjoyed getting to know them and the community there. And so, yeah, so they only, at this parish in particular, they only offer the Latin Mass, the Old Mass, the Tridentine Mass. People say Tridentine, that's another weird word that refers to the Council of Trent, so the Mass of the Council of Trent, which is 15-something.
And another term is ad orientem.
Well, yeah, that's another term. That's another kind of buzzword term. Ad orientem just means to the east. And so one of the big changes is in the new Mass, the Novus Ordo, is that the priest was facing towards you versus facing away from you. Now, the goal was never to face away because he hates you. It was facing east. and there's this whole theology of praying to the east and kind of praying with people.
Yeah.
So that's one of the defining characteristics is just switch or turn around. And that's if you're wondering what mass you're at, is the priest facing you or facing away? That's a good one to know. So yeah, that's another good word to know.
And that is an interesting thing that's different between saying ad orientem versus Tridentine or Latin Mass. Ad orientem is just about the position, the posture of the priest primarily, because you can have an ad orientem Mass where the priest is facing east, facing the altar away from you, that is still in English. And actually, I have a really beautiful memory of probably my first ad orientem Mass I ever attended, where Alina was about to give birth to our first child. And I was working at St. Joan of Arc Parish, and that's where I met the Schlueters. And I was Alina was like about to burst, like baby Lulu, because we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. It was going to be Lucas if it was a boy and Lucia if it was a girl. Baby Lulu was ready to come out. And so I think the day before she was due, she was in the office just saying hi to me, and Father Adam Hertzfeld came up to us in my office, and he was like, hey, would you like to pray the Mass with me? And I would love to offer it for your labor and for your baby and your health and everything. And we were like, yeah. So we went into the chapel. It was just me, Alina, and Father Adam, and he did.
Oh, wow.
I know, yeah. And he prayed the Mass ad orientem, which I had never experienced. Alina definitely had never experienced because she's a convert. And he had us do the liturgy of the Word. We read the passages from the Bible other than the Gospel, which he then read. But it was like so intimate and so beautiful. And it's amazing to me how intimate it felt, despite it being ad orientem. Because a big thing that people don't like the ad orientem about is that you're looking at the priest's back, and it can feel from a certain lens, from a certain perspective, it can feel like he's cut off, or like it's like he's stuck up or something. Well, I can tell you that in that moment when it was the three of us, it felt intimate. It felt like the three of us were similarly focused on the Lord. It felt like it wasn't the Father Adam show. It was we were all pointing our gaze to the Lord. And there's so much beauty in that experience. I came away very moved by that, obviously. And but there's so much beauty in like us kind of being willing to get stuff out of the way that is we think is going to make us happier, and really stripping things down to the bare bones of like, what are we really supposed to be doing here? You know, and I've wrestled with this conflict for a long time because I've been a worship leader, like a contemporary music director for, various parishes that I've worked at. And most recently in the time that I've been building Awaken Catholic and that we've been going to town on that, I had still been leading the music for a parish here locally in Perrysburg, or in Maumee. And I just went back to that parish. I stopped recently because we needed to kind of go, simplify our lives. There was too much going on. The whole time that, maybe not the whole time, but progressively throughout the years, I have wrestled more and more with what my role had been when leading music in the context of the sacred liturgy, because there were so many occasions, for example, that, people would clap after a moving song or something, or, and I'm not like some finger wagging person when it comes to liturgy, but my heart hurts in those moments because it's like, okay, you're clapping because A, I didn't do a terrible job. B, you were moved by the song or by my leading of it or whatever. But like, if we understood the theology of what's actually happening at the sacred sacred liturgy, nobody would be clapping.
Yeah.
Everyone would be weeping. Mm-hmm. If we understood weeping, both like maybe initially from like sorrow over what we were accessing, but then also joy at the same time. Like, I'm sure that if we had a true deep understanding of what it was, because essentially what happens in the Mass is it's like spiritual time travel. Like we access the power, the sacrifice of the actual crucifixion at Mass in the consecration. Like literally, we're there on our knees during the consecration, and it's almost as though we are transported in time and space to the foot of the cross, and we are accessing the sacrifice of the cross in the Eucharist here and now. And if we had any clue, like what was behind the veil that we couldn't see in that moment, we would feel the way that Mary and John felt that day. You know, where it's a very conflicted, like, this is incredible. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. This is amazing. Thank you, Jesus. Like, you know, if our hearts aren't filled with like repentance and overjoy of like, if we aren't overjoyed by the love that he had for us, that if any one of us was the only human being, he would still do that. I'm getting off on a tangent. My point is that I love that you guys brought this topic up, because Alina and I have been wrestling with kind of similar, we've been wrestling with, okay, do we want to try to experiment with other masses? Like, we've only ever gone to Novus Ordo masses. And I think that we in this culture are so hungry for something that is transcendent, something that takes us to a higher plane of existence. And it cannot be more transcendent than when literally heaven kisses earth in the Mass. Mm-hmm. And I think I've been very disillusioned by how nonchalantly we treat the liturgy today.
Totally.
And I talked a little bit about that in one of my recent Catholic Weird Stuff segment pieces, when we were talking about like how, because I had an Orthodox guest at the time on that episode. So she was talking about why she loves being Orthodox and stuff. And but yeah, so what about the Latin Mass, the Tridentine Mass, what about it has been attracting you guys to it?
Do you want to go first?
Oh, sure.
Colin kind of spearheaded it, the attraction.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think there's there's a positive and there's a negative aspect to it, and I say like, or maybe affirmative and negative is better words. So on the I'll start with the negative side. The negative side, there's a frustration in the church, and we all experience this. I think everyone can agree that there's these specific ways that the church has asked us to worship. That's laid out in the Vatican II documents, and for the new Mass, and there's all this instruction that's so beautiful, and yet there's basically not a single parish in the entire country who follows any of those to the T. So if you read the documents on the liturgy from Vatican II, it's almost unrecognizable what Mass would look like if we just followed all of those. I mean, I'm being dramatic there. So there's a level of frustration, and I know that drove me a little bit to think, okay, is there something, are we missing something here? And and maybe that wasn't necessarily driving Annie, but so that's the negative side, and I don't think that's a good reason to go to the Latin Mass, because that's like an issue with the church, and I think you need to kind of figure that out in obedience and humility. But on the affirmative side is where I really want to focus, which is saying nothing about the new Mass, making no criticism of it, because it's not really my place to be doing that. It's so beautiful. The old is so beautiful. And so, like Latin, I don't know anything about Latin. It's odd, but it takes you to a new place. And it's, and the music, for example, you know, I was the director of music ministry at school at Ave Maria University here for the last 2 years. So I've been doing a lot of music stuff, and I've actually stopped that now. And the music at the Latin Mass, so the chant, the polyphony has been amazing. And just the how in touch there with the liturgy. I mean, for example, the Antiphons, which some people have never even heard before. There's in every single Mass, there's an opening antiphon, there's an offertory antiphon, there's a communion antiphon, and there's a there might be more I might be missing. Those are beautiful antiphons taken from the Psalms. But the average American Catholic has never heard them, even though they're written into the new Mass. They're just not done. Yeah. And it's so cool to even get that at the old Mass. They have those, and they're never taken out. And it's just so beautiful. But between the music, between more silence, for example, in the Latin Mass, the entire Eucharistic prayer is said completely silently. The only thing they say out loud the entire time is when he says, "To us also those sinners." So it's just a recognition of our sin. which is like super powerful. And so basically it's this totally different, but also the exact same experience and it's really helped me. Same church, same Jesus. And one of the biggest things that I like to think about is that a professor here taught me was the phrase more Latin. Literally, I'm saying every Latin phrase I know because I know like 4. Okay, so I don't know stuff.
I'm here for it.
It's the phrase lex orandi, lex credendi. As we pray, so we believe. And so when you have a parish where there's no kneelers in the church because nobody kneels for communion, we are now praying in a way that we believe. So that indicates to me and to everyone else, no one takes this whole Eucharist thing seriously, okay? So then you have a bunch of people, and they're in their tank tops and their shorts and there's no kneelers. Like, that does not communicate to God or to me or to anyone there that we actually believe. And that is not a judgment on anyone's beliefs there. And I'm saying on the flip side of the Latin Mass, just because they pray it well doesn't mean they believe it well. So that's an internal thing.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, then that experience of, okay, the women are veiled, the men are in suits, we are kneeling like the whole time. There is so much silence. There is bells everywhere. There's like 1,000 servers. There's incense. And like all it culminates in the consecration. I mean, in the elevation. It's like, whoa, maybe we actually believe this. And now it feels like we're praying in a way that we do believe. So anyway, that's my long-winded answer. That's kind of the affirmative side of it. But I love, Annie and I go to the new Mass all the time, like the new Mass. I hate to say it, normal Mass, but that's what we call it. That's what we just say. All right, we're going normal Mass. It's a love both, and I don't think there's any exclusivity between the two. It's both. But when given the opportunity, it's kind of like, do you want to wear a suit or do you want to wear your jeans? Like, the jeans are awesome. Maybe that's a flawed analogy, but it's like, it's kind of fun to put on a suit once in a while, and it's really beautiful. And you know what I mean? So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Yeah. What about you?
Yes to all of that. So I grew up in a background that was predominantly or very Orthodox Catholic, just my family embraced the fullness of the church and everything else. Definitely more charismatic leanings. So that would be, maybe characterized by more out loud prayer and praise and worship and, just that whole realm of things. So that has very much formed my own spirituality. And I love worship so much. Worship, as in like the music stuff is a very big part of my prayer life. And just things that I've done in my life and ways that I've encountered the Lord. And Colin started talking about the Latin Mass and raising all these things. And part of me at first was just like, stop reading. Like, I don't want to change. I don't want to hear about it. But the more that he would tell me, it kind of bugged me of like, this is something that I actually want to know. And it's cool because Colin didn't grow up Catholic. His parents were Episcopal and he ended up, you converted when you were 10, right?
A little younger, like
9.
7 or 8.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so not necessarily part of like the background to all the way. My parents met as pretty much youth ministers, and now we have this totally new thing that's totally new to both of us totally old thing that's new to both of us. And that was huge and really beautiful. And that's been a beautiful part of our journey as a couple is figuring out how to integrate our spiritualities, not just because we want to get along, but because God willing, like we want our kids to not be confused.
Yeah.
So just being able to really dive into this and receive it and let it be simple. And something that I've come to rest in, a truth that I've come to rest in is I think that the quote unquote charismatic movement at its best advocates for intimacy with the Lord. And that's what we're bringing about is we're coming in to the Lord's presence and we're intimate with him. And the traditionalist movement, quote unquote, would advocate for reverence. And I want my life to just be the ultimate marriage of those two things, of reverence and giving God his due and his place as king of my life. And at the same time, recognizing the sacrifice of Jesus, which brings me up into that. And I have an opportunity to be intimate with him. And I really found that in the Latin Mass and in continuing on with, praise and worship in my own personal prayer and liturgy of the hours and the rosary and all of these beautiful things. But it has really formed us as a couple. And even it was really hard for me even to just like, we've kind of stepped away from more praise and worship type things in the context of the Mass. And I always dreamed that my wedding would be like all this worship and everybody has their hands in the air and like, you know, whatever else. And the more that I'm reading about what the church teaches in the place of the Mass and what the Mass is, it's like, okay, maybe those are good things, but it's good. The Mass isn't the place for it. Maybe I'm opening up a whole different conversation, but it just kind of, in some, we decided even just with that, like we're not having a Latin Mass wedding, but we're using Jessica Schuster, who's from Toledo and is super awesome. And she's putting together a whole sacred music group for us, which is really cool for our wedding Mass. And then
That's
the night
awesome.
before, my brother, good old Seth Schlueter, is going to be leading worship at the rehearsal dinner. So like just the beautiful marriage of the things that is present in the Catholic Church is awesome.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I think that what I was kind of hearing from both of you there is the way that I kind of translated that in my own heart and mind now is like this idea of approaching the Mass less about what do I want out of it and more about like the words of the priest as you were talking, I just got flooded with the words, it is right and just for us to give him praise. And that unequivocally, I don't think I said that word right. That means that it's about him and it's not about us. So it is right and just if it weren't for the mercy of God for Nick to go to hell. It is right and just because of the mercy of God and the redemption that I've experienced and the sanctification that is probably going to go on until I'm in purgatory. But it is right and just because God is so good and has been so good to me for me to just give him everything that I am. And that's not on my terms. It's not about doing that in a way that makes me feel good. It's about doing that in a way that lifts him higher and lets myself be lower so that he can be higher in my own mind. And as you were kind of both sharing your feelings and thoughts about that, like that's kind of what I was feeling myself is that's a big part of the distinction to me is like, you know, what am I looking for out of the Mass? Am I looking for an experience that makes me feel good, or am I looking for whatever way possible to just elevate the name of the Lord and to worship and praise him for his sake, because it is right and just, not because I deserve anything. I forget, who did I get this quote from recently? I think it was Father Mike Schmitz maybe, or just that I don't deserve a Mass with good music in it. I deserve hell.
I heard him say that. Yeah, that's
okay.
Really
Yeah. You know, I don't deserve a Mass with a great sermon in it. I deserve hell. If we get a Mass that has a great sermon and great music in it, fantastic. But like, we have no right to complain for any of those things. Yes. Our number one job is to show up and worship him.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Okay. So that was a great Catholic Weird Stuff segment. I think that there's a lot of beauty, you know, and I had never really been interested before in considering it. And that's something Alina and I have been talking about a lot. So I got really excited when you guys shared that you were into that right now. So I'm definitely going to keep exploring that personally. And I'd invite our viewers and listeners to kind of investigate, you know, maybe check out a Latin Mass and just kind of go with an open mind and an open heart and see what you find. All right. So Annie, your blog. So you mentioned on your blog that it is done, but that you're launching something else. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. So I started Captivated Freedom. Don't ask me what it means because I have no idea.
But it sounds super hipster, so you're good.
That was kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
18-year-old Annie was really hipster. Anyway, I don't know what I am now, but not that. So, had a good run, season for everything. Lots of goodness was born out of that, but it's kind of time for transition. Transitioning out of that, we are going to be starting a website together called Wilderness.
Oh.
And yeah, it's just a blog that we're both working on with pretty much things that we've been talking about tonight and today, and stuff about marriage and family life and other things that we're passionate about along those lines. So maybe you'll see a return of the podcast on there. Who knows? But we're working on creating some awesome content just for our people.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And you shared with our team earlier that I don't know if it's for one of you in particular or for both of you, but there's a real value you're putting in the importance of like order and discipline in your lives, both like physically, emotionally, spiritually. You want to talk about that at all? That seems to be something that you guys are into right now.
Yeah, so Colin really calls me on in that, so I'll just set him up to answer the question as the person who was communicating with your team and not totally filling him in on everything. Colin, we both actually, so Colin was one of the first high school group to do Exodus 90 when he was in high school. And he decided to do it again a year ago. And I'm really competitive, and so also had to do it. And it was really good for me. And it was out of that was born a lot more order in my life. And we've both gotten really passionate about that, just in how we steward our bodies, how we steward our emotions, all of these things really affect us spiritually, and how like making your bed actually is like a way to be holy and cultivate that in your life. I don't know if you want to say anything else on that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's just something just amusing. I think about and talk about a lot, and I'm the biggest hypocrite of all, of anyone in terms of living.
The biggest one?
No, not big as big. I'm pretty big, but I'm definitely a hypocrite in terms of, I can't talk about this stuff.
Wait, no, you can't even say you're a hypocrite, because the whole point of all of it is making goals and striving towards them. So
that's true.
Boom.
But I think it just being in college, the college lifestyle is just terrible. I mean, the way people live, they eat unhealthily, they stay up all night, they sleep way in. I know so many people, and then you go to a Catholic college, and it's even weirder, because it's like they stay up all night because they didn't start their holy hour till 1 a.m. and they want to do the holy hour and the rosary after that, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, what? I'm so confused. So some schools people stay out partying, but now you're staying up because you didn't schedule a holy hour. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny.
It's leading you to make bad decisions because you're not getting enough sleep.
Someone should let them know they can do the rosary during the holy hour.
Yeah, that's true. But
just throwing that out there.
I'm an RA on campus, and just seeing that, something I think about a lot. So basically, the thing I realized in my own personal life, and talking to basically everyone I know, especially young men, it's just the most basic formula. Like, if you can keep your living space clean, if you can vigorously exercise every day, if you can for 45 minutes, if you can pray every day for 30 minutes to an hour, and receive the sacraments weekly, and what's the other thing? And eat relatively healthy, like, you're doing better than 99% of the whole world, and especially Catholics, and that's like amazing. And if people just tried, I think if Catholics just tried to get there, then all the other small stuff, I don't say small stuff, but like even just being evangelical, like talking to people about the faith, if you can't lay that base of just some level of order, I know personally, I don't even know, I can't go out to anything further without that simple base of just keeping things clean, eating well, working out, praying, receiving the sacraments. Like that's literally it. And basically, anytime you talk to anyone of all ages, and the days that people get all those things, it's not just about checking boxes. When they get those, people are so thrilled. And like, it's so funny. I have family members that, when they get those, they come home and they're like, oh, I did this and this. I finally got it today. It was so great. And it's so hard to get everything. But yeah, it's that simple. I mean, there's more, I'm sure, to it, but just that simple order is so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just huge for living well. And Annie and I are really trying to do that, and excited for marriage where we can kind of do that together, because it's still kind of relatively separate now.
Speaking of marriage, so you're engaged and you're getting married in May. Is that right?
May 29th.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Are you, I don't want to put you on the spot, Annie, but are you going to be a Stroud?
Yes, 100%.
Hey, it's the 21st century. I just didn't want to assume anything.
That's okay. I appreciate that. I do have a friend who put Colin's name in his phone as Colin Schlueter. So that was kind of funny, but
it's pretty progressive.
I actually really appreciate that Stroud is a lot easier to say and to spell. So
fair enough. Yeah.
That's happening.
Are those both German names? Or like Schlueter is obviously German, right? Okay, what is Stroud?
I believe it is too. I'm not super sure.
I get that vibe from it. I'm not great at telling that because I'm Cuban, and if it's not a Romance language, I'm screwed. But
That's funny.
but yeah, that's awesome. All right, so you're getting married, and I just want to maybe leave off on this question. What would you say to a couple that is dating and is curious? Maybe one of them is ready to go, maybe the other one's not. Like, what do you do when you're like, do we get engaged or do we wait longer? Or do we break up? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's pretty much what our story was. So that's a good setup.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled. Annie was ready to get married. Now, Annie is 2 grades above me in school and about a year and a half older, year-ish. So
Year and 4 months.
Annie was in a slightly different life state than me. So me as a sophomore in college talking about marriage freaked me out. And Annie as a graduating senior in college, everyone talks about marriage then, especially in young Catholic circles. So I struggle with that a little bit. And
Also, in case you aren't able to tell, Colin is so beautifully intellectual and likes to read things and get the facts and have supporting evidence. And I'm like, the sky is blue. Oh, wow. So that's really interesting when you're just starting marriage.
That is so funny.
Because I was like, I just need to talk to more people. So I'm going to identify the 10 people who are most influential in my life. I will speak to all of them eventually.
And I'm like, I just did a blog post. Wow.
And I need their express approval for Annie.
Oh my
Otherwise,
gosh.
not happening.
That's hysterical.
I'm being silly a little bit there, but it kind of did that. And so, yeah, I think for people that, I think it's so hard. I think obviously men, initiate that active engagement, but it's totally together you got to figure it out. Like you got to talk through it. And I think there is kind of a stereotype of women being like, I'm ready to get engaged, and the man kind of floundering. That's kind of the stereotype. It's not always that way. I know couples that have the opposite. But I think that there's a couple different things. But I think that the most common thing, especially among good religious people, is that you actually are called to marriage and it actually is a good thing, and you're just terrified to. So I won't even talk about if you shouldn't get married. Basically, I think if your both sets of parents hate you guys, then you probably shouldn't. That's probably the first rule of that. If they're good parents. That's what my dad always said. He's like, if we ever say, he goes, you better listen to us because we have to like her too. And anyway, but I think that
they like me though. You should say that.
They love it. The common problem though is you got really good people and everyone in their life approves of it and says go for it, and they're just floundering around because of age or money or all kinds of stuff. And so my relatively newfound idea and advice to most men would be say, go for it, do it, because it's not, people aren't saying, I don't think I'm called to marriage. I'm not sure if she's the one. They're like, I love her. I know I'm called to marriage. She's the one. But honestly, I only make this amount of money a year, and I'm not sure if it's right. I'm like, are you serious? I just think that's a really, that's not a very Catholic answer. And it's not a very pro-life, just openness to God's plan and to life answer. And so I think that would be my advice. So I don't know about you, Anna. Probably the same thing.
Yeah, similar. I would definitely say that. I think the thing I hear from women the most is just I don't want to get married right away and I don't want to have kids right away, but I really love him and he's the one. But also, I want to travel the world and have this job and whatever else. And I'm not the epitome of faithfulness to the Lord at all by any stretch of the imagination. But the way that I was led to stay here at Ave Maria, even though this was not part of my plan at all, I have just reaped the benefits and felt so much peace and experienced just righteousness, just this right way of living by being engaged and pursuing this. And I think that, go for it, because the Lord, when he calls you to something, he's still going to fulfill all those other desires of your heart. And they might take surrender and you might have to lay them down on the altar, but he's going to fulfill them in ways that are bigger than you dreamed. And if you're not a little bit scared, then you're probably doing something wrong or you're lying to yourself, because there can be peace that also coexist with understanding the gravity. So I think go for it would be the shortened answer.
Yeah, I love both of those answers. And Colin, with yours, like I started thinking about when I used to do more focused work on marriage and family life stuff, and I would do workshops for engaged couples. I would talk to them about how, like, in our society right now, there's this approach that is being taken. You know, it's an unspoken thing where you wait until you're ready to get a divorce to get married. You wait until both people are financially stable enough to support themselves and have their careers figured out, and they've both graduated and all this stuff, and then you get married. And it's like, why? I feel like, based on hearing both of your responses, just super moved by the idea of, like, man, if you know you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, that's why you get married. Not because you're ready. The idea of being ready is bullcrap. Nobody's ever ready, you know? We've been married 8 years and I'm still not ready. I could be a way better husband.
Yeah, and that's what definitely I think about. There's no that ready word is so silly, and there's really no such thing. I mean, that's the thing, is that some people think we're crazy because we're so young. I'm 21. I'll be 22 after we get married, and so it's like, I mean, the thing is that there's so many witnesses of good couples that have done that, but at the same time, we're not going to be more ready at 24. I mean, we will be more other stuff. I'll probably have less hair and I'll probably have more money, and I'll be a little more mature. But at the same time, that I just don't think that's necessarily the most consequential thing. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was crazy in love with Alina at 18, and it's only because we are doing things the way people do it now that we went 7 years with a tumultuous and terrible, heartbreaking story instead of being married all those years, you know? But anyways, all right, guys, here we are. You're in love. You're going to get married. It's exciting. You've very faithfully left enough room for the Holy Spirit, since you're still just engaged, throughout this interview. So thank you. Yeah, no, seriously, this has been such a joy. You guys are beautiful people. And I want to speak on behalf of everybody when I say that I'm excited for Wilderness, and for any forthcoming podcast and blog ventures you might have therein, Wilderness.
Thank you. We received that.
Good. You have no choice. Any parting words?
Parting words?
Your parting words?
My parting words is that this has been awesome, and Nick, thank you for your yes. I know this is a show that other people are watching, so I'm just gonna speak on behalf of all of your other people.
Yes, well, I'll speak on behalf.
And thank you for your yes, and for your beautiful family, and just the testament to everything that the Lord offers that you guys are living out. So we love you guys and everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you guys, and appreciate you taking the time to do this in your busy Floridian schedules in the warmth. All right, well, stay in touch, guys. And if you want links to the blog called Captivated Freedom, RIP, that will be linked in the show notes. And if you want to check out the Colin and Annie Show podcast, RIP, that will be listed in the show notes. But there will be actual social media links as well that are still alive and kicking. All right, everybody, this has been the Awaken Catholic Show, and I have been Nick Della Torre for you. And this has been Colin Stroud and Anne-Marie Schlueter, or Annie Schlueter. And they're doing awesome stuff for the kingdom. I'm just a dude trying my best, and I hope you're doing your best. And if not, come back next time and maybe you could do even better.
This show and all media on Awaken Catholic is made possible by the Awaken Nation and the Hallow app. The Awaken Nation is a community of people like you who support all things Awaken for as cheap as a cup of coffee a week and get access to exclusive content. Learn more by visiting awakencatholic.org/donate.